Hey, it was great being in Ireland. I want to come back.
I'm an Irish descent.
Right now, so and it's actually sunny right now. It's beautiful outside, green and green and green.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, I was over there some years ago.
Here with me.
Hi there.
Hi.
Ellie, can you say hi? He's eating a chocolate right now, and all the girls are outside building birdhouses at the minute.
Oh, good.
So, we have a friend who's really wonderful gardener and loves doing different things with kids, and so he brought all these little supplies over today. So they're now outside with their bird feeders trying to find places to hang them. So that's what's happening today.
Well, great.
So you have a cool day outside.
It's beautiful because, I mean, it's touch and go when it's Ireland. It can be rainy and grey and wet and cold, but today is beautiful. So I think we're going to take the kids to the beach after we're finished here and let them run around, and then hopefully they'll go to bed in good time tonight.
Sounds
Well,
great.
it's kind of like Florida's touch and go too. It's been
Well,
a lot of rain.
is that where you are right now?
Yes, we're in Orlando, Florida now.
Oh, wonderful.
But
what is it like right now for you?
It's probably in the high 70s, maybe into the 80s.
80s.
Okay.
We're in Orlando, and I was born in Ocala, which is about 2 hours above Orlando. And just that little distance makes it colder in Ocala than down here.
Yes, I know. Well, I love Florida. We're actually meant to be taking the kids on a big Disney holiday this past July, which got all cancelled because of the pandemic. But we hope to get to do that again sometime. It was I turned 40 this year, and then Keith's cousin turned 40 a couple years ago. We were trying to go last year, so it was a big birthday present for the two families, and we've now postponed it 3 times. The way things have gone. You can get out there. Go find Daddy.
How's it feel to be over the hill?
I don't feel quite over it, but I do feel that I've covered a bit more ground.
Yeah, that's good.
It's funny because I didn't even feel 40 at all physically, but 50 I did.
Yeah, I know that. I do hear that. 40, I feel a sense of a little bit more energy. You know, the last decade has been so filled with we've had the 4 babies and wonderful season, but gosh, it's an exhausting one, you know. So I sort of feel my youngest is 2.5, and I'm like starting to feel this sense of wow, a little bit more physical energy. Of course, my brain is completely pickled, but my body might feel a little extra zest now that I'm getting more sleep at night.
Well, I grew up with 4 boys.
There we go.
My mother had her hands full.
She had 4 boys.
Yeah.
Girl.
It is very, very busy, that's for sure. See, I'm a special call now with Daddy, or with you need to go and stay with Daddy, but you can say hello if you like. This is Gracie.
Hi.
How is your birdhouse?
I'm already finished.
You're already finished? Did you hang it up somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you go out with Daddy, and then I'll see you in a little bit when I finish this conversation, okay? And I will see it in this little minute, okay? I can get Keith in a second, but I knew that you guys were interested in children's ministry, so I didn't feel just the same pressure with little kids around.
Wonderful, yes.
Then you know where they are, and you can go get a snack. Get a snack, okay? Go and ask Uncle Michael. He's coming in. I will go and get Keith because I want to be able to talk to you seriously as well, but this was a transitional moment. I came inside to take the call, and they all followed me. You know the way the mummy Pied Piper role. Michael, you should go and get Keith to tell him I'm in an interview now. He needs to come and take the kiddos. He's just outside the back with Eliza. Do you mind? Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm just sitting here for moral support for RJ because he's kind of nervous.
Oh, don't be. I love having conversations about children and music and faith, and you probably do too.
Oh yeah.
Our 3. We sing a lot of the Bill Gaither songs.
Oh, you do?
We're little because that's all that was available, and we just all knew those. They know it to this day. They'll sing bubbling over. Jesus Christ is bubbling up there. And a lot of those songs have a lot of their adult life because I have one son that has 5 kids. And then the other son has 3, and my daughter had 2. So we only have 3 children, but
But we played a lot of music in our house all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. But I'm glad you're doing the children's songs, because we need a new. I mean, Bill Gaither was new then, but gee whiz, that's been. My youngest is 47, so
yeah.
What is
Keith grew up with the Bill Gaither things, and I grew up also with Salty and Kids Praise. I love those.
Yeah.
And I know the kid also, Johnny Erickson Tada, did some lovely stuff as well, for kids. We love teaching our kids lots of kids songs, but we also have been so challenged in these last years to teach them the hymns of the faith as well. Knowing that I've just been amazed at the capacity of little kids to be able to learn songs, and what a sponge time it is, in terms of them just soaking so much. And my mum is a kindergarten teacher. She's retired now. My sister also is an elementary school teacher. I wasn't trained in it, and I was the firstborn in my family, so the first one to have kids, and so it's just been, although I worked with children always, it's been such a hands-on experience with my own kids, and such a surprise at just how much they learn as little kids and how much they can sing. Even Talia, who's 2.5, she sort of is around and picking up on the songs that her older sisters are singing, and she's trying to sing them too. It's amazing. And I guess when it comes to a hymn and a sort of whether it's an older or a newer one, the idea of a hymn is it sort of sticks around for a little bit longer. You're trying to have this timeless quality. And so I found that in teaching the hymns to the kids, that even if they don't get all of it, and they don't know all of it right away, that they're going to come back to it. It's like the Christmas carols, we sing them every single year. And so it's worth teaching them while they're little, and knowing that it's a long-term investment at every level.
So tell us about Evensong.
Yeah, Evensong. So I told you I turned 40 this year, right? Yes, we did. We had that conversation. Last year, Keith came to me and said, you've been singing hymns and leading the singing of hymns these last 20 years. Is there something that you'd like to do that's a little creatively different? And we'd often talked about doing a more of a lullaby album, and so this album is that, and we have a lot of lullabies on it, but we also included hymns too, because we realized that we sing hymns to our kids, don't just sing the lullabies. And we called it Evensong because the word Evensong, the idea of Evensong, is a very old traditional practice in the church, and particularly the liturgical church. It's a short service at the end of the day, that has prayer, Bible reading, liturgy, and singing. And it's just basically meant to find us where we are and direct the mind and heart to the Lord, and so sanctify the night. And we do a lot of the singing with our children in the evening time. We find it a good thing to reach for, to gather them in. And I just love the ideas as they go to sleep, and it's a more vulnerable part of the day. There's more questions. They have a little more alone time in the shadows of the night. That these are the ideas that are going around their mind and their heart as they go to sleep, that they can speak into some of the little worries and fears. And of course, their music, a melody, really does warm the heart. There's something beautiful and attractive about it that does bring a comfort. And so all of those ideas are sort of poured into this new album collection of songs called Evensong. And there are older hymns, newer hymns that we've written, and then older lullabies, but then newer ones that we've written in the last year or two. And particularly for the first song, Hush By Baby, was written for our last baby, Talia.
I love that one.
You just saw.
I saw that on when you recorded at the barn.
Yes,
And
found a beautiful barn. It's actually Amy Grant's barn, actually, in just Franklin, in Tennessee there, and she very kindly lent it to us so that we could record the songs, in which we then launched the album, or launched the sort of the concert version of the album at the Sing Conference this year. Yes. And then the actual album came out a few days later.
Mm-hmm. I listened to the whole thing last night.
You did?
Oh, it's wonderful. And that's the kind of music I like to have to set in the background as I'm doing my Bible study. It just is calming and has good thoughts that way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that you're able to use it in that way. That's great, because it is, it's a lullaby album, but often the songs that we sing, that they are for our kids, but they're for us as well, you know, and that's one of the things I've loved during the pandemic, particularly when I've been, you know, cut off from the usual spaces where I'd meet with other believers, that family worship has become even more important, and for the kids, but so much for me, you know. And when the schedule changed so much and I jumped into, you know, homeschool and doing a lot more at home and without the usual help or things that you had in place to get you through the day, I, you know, really leaned on those times, you know, as a sustenance for my own soul, never mind my kids. You know, I needed them and they needed me. That was a good time.
COVID-19 kind of squashed everything, didn't it?
It did.
But
and even the recording of this album too, it was crazy, you know, because we had decided we were going to record part of it in London and record part of it in Ireland and in different studios with different people in Nashville, and then suddenly it was recorded at home. And music has changed so much, the production of music in the last, you know, in the last decade or two, and so that people have studios and spaces and equipment able to record them at home. But earlier on in the year, I had started working with Crossway on ideas around recording an audio Bible of the ESV version.
Yes,
and so
I love that.
Provided, and which is what has been a fantastic thing to do, and it's going to take another year to do it. But they provided a thing called a whisper room for the garage, or the garage, as you say there. And it was an amazing little space, a little sort of soundproofed room, and I just would escape there during during the quarantine time, and when the kids were asleep at night or when Talia was napping, and that's where I recorded the vocals as well. They kindly let me use that little space in a multi-purpose way, so that was great.
Well, how would you encourage parents to use the music and such in their lives? I know you talk about your kids know more than 30 songs other than
they know a lot.
The Getty songs.
Yeah, we teach them all different types of songs. We started a hymn a month with them a number of years ago, where we would just at the beginning of the month, you know, introduce a song, and we'd maybe hum or ga 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 goo 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 on the melody, just to get to teach it to them, and then introduce some of the lyrics. If there was a refrain, do that, and over the course of the month teach them as much as we could, knowing that we'd come back to it at a later stage and they'd learn it more as they got older, but just to give them a sense of the melody and the idea of the song and some of the lyrics, which then became the basis of the family hymn sings that we did over the time.
From your back porch.
From the back porch, I know. We moved to the back porch so that we could invite more guests, because it was, you know, tricky having people in our home, you know, during quarantine, so that the porch worked really well. And that, yeah, it was a fun thing to be able to do with the kids, but that represented, you know, several years of teaching the songs. And then, of course, we taught them loads more during the pandemic because we had a bit more time with them, which was great. So some of those songs are on this album. And so I would hope in terms of the use of the album, I would play a couple of the songs at the minute for the girls just as before they go to sleep. So just simply just playing it. You know, a lot of people will say to us, well, it's all very well for you because you're a singer and Keith plays piano. And so it's a sort of you do. But I think we sort of need to shift the conversation of music and singing particularly, not to just be for those who are either good at it or enjoy it, but to understand singing as being the privilege and discipline of every believer. It's part of what it means to follow the Lord, is to sing. The church is the singing church. We are singing people, and singing is a gift that helps us uniquely remember the things of the faith and to pass them on, and to get such deep encouragement from those things in those times of singing. And so to see it's not just a specialist activity like picking up the guitar, but in the way that we teach our kids to pray and we teach them to read the scriptures, we teach them to sing, and we sing to one another. And in fact, we build the voice of the church through building the voice of the family, and times at home, even as individuals, if we don't yet have kids, but or grandparents who've seen kids fly off like you have, you know, but teaching them to our grandkids, but using singing in home life as a preparation for church and Sunday. So I would just encourage, just play the songs over your phone and sing along with them if you don't play an instrument. And of course, many hymns can be sung without accompaniment at all, which is what's so great. Folk melodies don't require so much accompaniment, which means that they're so versatile. They're able to just sing them in the bedroom at night, or around the kitchen table before you eat a meal, or in the morning as you go to school. And so we've just done that with our kids. So if these songs can help calm your children as they go to sleep, but also provide some songs that you might actually directly and intentionally teach your kids the songs, I think that's really good.
The song Jesus Loves Me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. That is really discipleship.
Yeah, exactly. And I sang that as a little kid, and it's been such a joy to teach it to my kids. It's one of the first songs my kids ever learned to sing, and that's why we wanted to include it as one of the best known, most loved children's hymns all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your father?
Who's my father?
Who was your father?
Who was my father? Gilbert Lennox is my father, and he was a full-time pastor. He retired a couple of years ago, so he's a Bible teacher. Fabulous guy, and I'm so glad to be home right now because I'm only 20 minutes away from him as opposed to thousands of miles. He's also a keen photographer, and so I've loved.
Really?
He's a creative guy in writing and in Bible teaching, but also in photography, and so he has always opened my eyes to seeing what is, as Lewis calls it, good, true, and beautiful through the things that God has created, through music, arts, good conversation, and the studying of God's word. And so he's a fabulous dad and just a wonderful grandpa.
And then John Lennox is your uncle?
John Lennox is my dad's big brother.
Uh-huh.
And a great, just very close with my dad, but also was the person that introduced me to my husband.
I was going to ask you how you met Keith.
Yeah, so John, my Uncle John, visited my dad's church when I was, I think, 17 or 18 years old. And I was singing that Sunday. And at lunch afterwards at home, he said, Kristyn, what do you have any thoughts of what you might do with your singing, or what would you like to do? And I'd love to see you be encouraged in that. And I know this guy, he's a few years older than you, but he's a believer, and he's into music and songwriting, which I hadn't even really thought of doing yet. He said, I think you should meet him. I'm going to connect the two of you. And so John reached out to Keith and said, I have a niece, and I would love you to meet her and talk to her about music and singing songs for the Lord. And because John had such an impact on Keith's life in terms of his faith, I'd spoken in on many occasions, and he knew him separately from I'd never met Keith before, but he knew my uncle. He took the call and said, yeah, I'll meet her. Not knowing what that would all lead to. And my uncle, several years later after that first meeting, spoke at our wedding, and he opened up by saying, I had no idea when I introduced Kristyn to Keith that I would be here today speaking at your wedding, but I am so glad for that, and we're so grateful to him.
That's great. And you have a ministry in music. And also, I think I talk about discipleship all the time. How would you say music is for the general run of the mill, not children, I'm saying adults? How do you think music fits in there?
Well, I would say that lyrics are not neutral. They're always conveying ideas for how to see the world, how to understand it, whether it's a Christian song or not. It is always informing how we think, because as Phil Vischer of VeggieTales says, that singing and music is sticky. It sticks around in your mind and in your heart. And so whether you like it or not, that's what it does. And so the challenge then, as a parent, as a believer, as a songwriter, is to try and write songs that are filled with rich biblical truth and an understanding of the scriptures and how it connects to everyday life, who God is, the gospel, what that looks like in our life, and trying to do it in the most beautiful way possible so that the lines really remain with any person of any age. Yeah. It is so important. It's such a big responsibility.
And there's harmony not only of the music, but harmony of the words that go together. You write lyrics, right? And Keith writes music.
That's most how it falls, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's like I said, a harmony that connects with that music and tells more of the story rather than just hearing something sometimes. Having the knowledge of what's being said, the words there, not just hearing them, but to see them sometimes. I sat in a church there in Ireland some years ago. Everybody went somewhere else. Then they said, "You come?" I said, "No, I'm going to be here." And I sat there and I pulled out this old hymnal, which was over like 100 years old. And I read through that, and I was just so blessed to read the content of the words of that hymnal. It was wonderful.
It used to be that you would have, a lot of believers in the past would have had the Bible and the hymnal beside their bed at night, that they reached for both, and that they would read the word and they would sing the word. And that was what was their comfort. That was their spiritual formation. And not that... so much has been brought to us through technology, so many gifts, it's just incredible. But one of the things that has been lost is the lingering nature of lyrics and hymnals, that not that people still use hymnals, of course they do, but so much of what we do is on screens, and which is great in some regard, but the words are there for a second and then they're gone again. True. How do you live with some of these texts and use them in your devotional life? And I think that's where a hymnal can be so helpful. Not only do we sing them, but these are beautiful texts just to read.
Mm-hmm. And taking scripture and putting it into music.
Right, exactly. And the best of hymn writers can, find such a special way of taking biblical truth or lines in scripture and shaping them in such a way that distills so much truth into simple lines, but in lines that you love to sing, in lines that you just remember beautifully. Like one of my favorite hymns is Before the Throne of God Above. It's an old text that Vicky Cook then did a new melody to. And, verse 2, when Satan tempts me to despair or tells me of the guilt within, upward I look and see him there who made an end to all my sin. Because the sinless Savior died, my sinful soul is counted free, for God the just is satisfied to look on him and pardon me. That is just beautiful poetry.
Oh, very
As
beautiful.
the sinless Savior died, my sinful soul is counted free, for God the just is satisfied. Even just saying it, such a lyrical quality, beautiful use of rhyme and alliteration, but gosh, how many ideas are just poured into those few lines. Yes. And I have thought about those words so many times whenever I felt mum guilt or just guilt and frustration at just my own shortcomings and become just so stuck in my own head. And I love that lyric's ability to widen our view, to look beyond ourselves, to see the Lord, to remember again the gospel, and just to feel like the windows have been opened in the stuffy room of my own brain and to be renewed by them. I just love it. Love that.
What about those people who can't sing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's different levels to what that means. I find people sometimes what people mean is that I wouldn't sing into a microphone. I don't have a voice that people can, listen to, like a performance voice. But when we're talking about congregational music, we're not talking about performance voices. We're talking trying to hold a melody and singing with everybody else. And singing with everybody else is what gives us confidence, which is to sing, which is why it's so important to have a song that people can sing, because then it builds the congregational confidence in the song. And I'm singing because you're singing, and you don't necessarily need to hear me so clearly, but together we blend. I mean, there's obviously a great God specifically gifts people with the significant musical talent to help encourage the church to sing, or by playing an instrument or by singing or whatever. But the majority of the church gathering are singing together, and it's not necessarily meant to be a performance, but we can sing, and of course we get better by singing more. The more we sing, the better we become at it. And then there are people that genuinely only have a few notes and don't often hit the right ones, but it is a small amount of people. But I have one of our band members, his dad is one of those people who only has a few notes and cannot sing well, and laughs about how badly he sings, but doesn't stop.
We put him in the back of the choir, so they boom,
well, yeah,
boom,
it would be a good thing to put the people that struggle with singing in a choir, but they should be in the congregation. And sometimes I think it would be so great some Sundays for and I'm sure people do this, and I've seen it done, where the choir is planted in the congregation. Because there's something when there's somebody who's a good singer and standing in your row. It just helps everybody better, you know. So there's things that you do to help. And this particular story I was telling you of my friend's dad. You know, he couldn't sing well, but all his kids have grown up appreciating singing, being involved in singing, and you know how well he sang was not the determining factor as to whether he sang. He just sang anyway.
Kristyn, what is your favorite song of the album?
I don't know. My favorite song of the album. I think right now I'm probably really loving the Hushabye song, just because it's the one that I wrote the most recently, and wrote it with Talia in mind. And you know, I went to visit the Museum of the Bible last year, and absolutely loved it. And I loved seeing the Bible artifacts from long ago. And one of them was, they have a whole collection of Jewish tear bottles, little bottles that were meant to symbolize the collection of the tears. You know, which the verse in the Bible that you have collected all my tears in your bottle. And then that idea of him, you know, one day wiping them all away. And I love that whole image, and that stuck with me. And I just thought, it's not just the tears that we cry when we're all growing up, but it's the tears throughout all of our life. And how many times in the last 10 years I've nursed a little child who has skinned their knee, or is scared of the dark, or like something, and have had to wipe tears away. And just the whole notion of a bottle, you know, how many bottles that we had going through this house for the last decade. We don't have any anymore. But and it just reminded me of little children and the bottle. And so I thought I would love to write a lullaby that's sort of more of even like a lament than anything, knowing that there's just, you know, what's the first thing you listen for when a baby is born is their cry, that they cry out. And that cry is not a happy one. That cry is one of fear, as one of I'm cold, I'm hungry, and then the immediate comfort that a mummy brings. And it's such an example then of, you know, of humanity, that's so much of it hard, difficult, so many struggles, so many fears that we all feel. And just like a mother is able to come around and wrap around this little child, that's how we understand the Lord to be, and what he brings to us. And so that was meant to be that song capturing some of that idea. So verse 1 is about the bottle and the bottle of tears, and that he has those bottles. Verse 2 is then I looked at the idea of the blanket. There's a blanket for our soul wraps around us. And then the last verse is the image of a mother holding her child, and remembering the Lord holds both the mother and child. So I feel like I'm waffling on endlessly. I'm so sorry. Just like chittering.
Oh, no. I was at a school yesterday, and the little class came out, and they were going to go to the playground, and they walked along, and all of a sudden one of the little boys fell and scratched his knee. And the teacher came over, got down with him, and he cried, and she picked him up. And I had just listened to all of your album, and I was frozen in place, thinking of what was happening in front of me, and the things that you were singing about. It just really meant so much to me. And you know, inside every little boy and girl, or man or woman, there is a little child, and we still have that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that
No
questions.
I'm here to listen and encourage you.
That's good. Where did you grow up, by the way? I'm sorry, did you have?
I was going to tell her that we've been married 55 years, so encourage you. I heard y'all had an anniversary not too long ago.
It was, back in June, we were at 16 years, but we also celebrate months. So in 3 months' time, we're coming up on our 200-month anniversary.
That's good. So where were you born, and where did you grow up?
I was born in Belfast in the Samaritan Hospital.
I'm thinking of the map. That's good.
Yeah. And then I grew up just outside Belfast in the Newton Abbey area, just north of the city. Well, when I got married, my husband and I, Keith and I moved up to the North Coast, which we both loved so much. And we moved there, and then that's where we keep coming back to every time we come home. So we're about 7 miles here from the North Antrim coast, where we are right now.
Beautiful area.
Oh, it's
RJ keeps telling me he's going to take me there.
I'm going to. I'm going to.
My grandfather came from Ireland.
Oh, he did? What part?
I don't know, because he was an orphan.
He was a stowaway.
And he was a stowaway in a ship to America. He traveled. He was actually became a
ship's
part
captain.
of the ship captain
Later on, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I never knew him because he died before I was born. So, but I heard stories. I've heard wild stories about him.
That sounds like a book there.
That's right. That's right. So, and you're enjoying, and how far are you from the coast?
We're just about 6-7 miles from the coast right here.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Very close.
Yeah. What do you hope happens with the album?
Well, I do think it's even though we planned on doing this album last year, we could never have imagined what 2020 would bring. So I was, when we sat back after everything happened and thought, should we still do this project? It's going to be tricky. Is it still the right thing to do? We felt very driven by the need being great for people to, in whatever which way we could contribute to this, to provide songs of comfort for people, especially in the hours before they go to sleep. Although people have said they've used it in the morning and various different things. It is a more the production of the album is much more calming, and sort of the instrumentation of it and how the vocals go. And so I really do hope that it is a significant comfort for people through the troubles of this year and going forward, that it would also encourage ideas of the importance of family worship and spending time as a family in song and in prayer, which I know lots of people do, but hopefully another resource, and just cheering people on in that. And I hope that some of the songs might be resource just for the church and for congregational singing in general. We always hope that with everything that we do.
Are you going to do Sing Global again?
We will, yeah.
I mean, you've done Sing, and then this year you called it Sing Global.
Yeah, because
where are you going?
We sing as a conference that this was the 4th year we've done it, that we hosted in Nashville, but because the pandemic couldn't do a physical event, and so shifted it to an online event, which opened up so many more opportunities. Of course, nothing ever can compare to lots of people together in a room singing to the Lord and learning together. You can't replace that. But we were so thrilled with what we were able to get to do, and being digital, it meant that we could bring a lot more contributors who might not have been able to come to Nashville, whose schedules weren't open but suddenly were, and they were able to record wherever they were. Like my uncle, you mentioned John Lennox, he was able to record in Oxford, and although he missed not being able to come across to Nashville, he loves coming over, but it was just great that he could be at home and do that. And then it also meant the participants could be much more global too. People who couldn't come across to Nashville, or people just because they were at home and not able to do other things, were able to join us for it. So it's just amazing. So many different people from around the world. And we just loved it. It was a stressful few months putting it together. We're so proud of our team. It's a small, close-knit group of people who worked alongside this amazing production company called Streamline to put it all on. And they did a great job. It's incredible what technology can do.
I heard that you guys have over 100 million people who have listened and sing, or that they sing in their churches.
Sing along with them, over the course.
Right?
It's been incredible what some of the hymns have done and where they have gone, and the congregations that are singing them. It has been so great. And of course, Sing Global represented just a little bit of that.
Yes.
Of where hymns have gone to. Music can travel in ways that we can't ourselves. It's amazing what it does. And so that's been really great. And of course, what we did with Sing Global this year was, rather than just making it like a 3 or 4 day experience for people, we opened it up for a few months. So all the material that happened, and which was a lot. There was hundreds of speakers.
Well, I haven't gone through it all yet. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, so we were hoping that it could be like a around the year resource. So linked into another thing that we're developing, which was the sort of the Getty Music Online. Called Getty Music Plus. So sort of thing, that a resource that could be 365 days a year. So so could actually really, be part of, people's ongoing understanding development forum of ideas, and when it came to congregational singing. So that's been a good thing.
Well, I heard you guys get sold out in Kennedy Center and all those kind of places, and I would love to bring you to Orlando. I'm working on finding a place big enough.
Oh, that would be fantastic. We'd love to do that. And may that be soon. We had to cancel the fall tour and the Christmas tour this year, so we'll be sad not to have that. But, we're glad to be home for this extended time, and hope to write a lot more and to develop a lot more ideas, so that we're even more ready when it comes to
bringing that up. When do you normally get your thoughts on writing?
Oh my goodness, lots of different ways. I mean, there are moments where you always are developing the skills in whatever job you do, and so there are clear times whenever I'm sort of listening and working on ideas, and there's the discipline of it. There are moments where I just have to sit down, and you meet somebody to start an idea, or I have to tell myself I'm sitting down for 3 hours and I have to finish this. But then there's the mysterious element to any sort of creative endeavor, that it's not quite a science, and there's so much of it that includes life and observation and a conversation you had with your 5-year-old before they went to sleep, and a foolish thing you said that you shouldn't, or a worry that you have about something, or a book that you're reading, or a movie that you watch, or a walk you take with your dad to look at the light as it sets over the North Atlantic coastline. And all these things become, part of the water from which you draw creative inspiration. And so I think it's a combination of all of those things. Then there's a real practical moment that if you're writing a song for the church to sing, then you have to test it out and check that it works. And then I find a lot of what I've had to do as a songwriter has been editing, taking out what doesn't need to be there, changing things which don't work, and cutting things off that I really wanted to include, but they don't really work, and then keeping up some of the scraps at the end and filing them away, and they might find a place in the future.
You go with words first or music first?
We typically go with music, because when it comes to the hymn writing, because what we're trying to get is a melody that congregations can sing and will want to sing. And then once we have that in place, then we build the lyric. Very often we find if we build too much with lyrics, it starts to inform the melody, and that can take it to a place that's not as congregational.
Our time is going to be up, so we want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to talk and have this conversation. We love you. We love you both.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to talk with you guys. It's been great, and I hope this has been of help with all the many people that you work with and interact with. Thanks so much.